Utah because everyone's hopped up on Mountain Dew. And Alex is calling people to repentance, like the stand of the Lamanite, so we like to see that. So good stuff. This is really, we wanted to host today. Hey guys, appreciate it. We wanted to join everybody today just to kind of go back to the horrific events that happened on the 10th of this month. There are tons of people on the stage that we have today that have different perspectives all around the horrible murder of my friend Charlie Kirk. And so we wanted to first thank, particularly the men and women in law enforcement here in the state of Utah that have been so incredible. That helped that day, especially at Chaffetz. It was a horrific day for so many, and just the best, the state of Utah were there to try to save Charlie's life, and everyone should know that and know how incredible that work was done. So God bless those medical personnel that did everything. Lastly, I wanted to recognize who was at UVU on the day of. If you wouldn't mind standing up, because we just God bless each and every one of you. So I wanted to start today just by going back and kind of taking us through. Obviously, we have 3 different perspectives from the tragedy that happened. I want to start with kind of what happened. Jason was there that day with his kids. And so, how are you holding up? How are you doing?
It's tough. It's really tough. First of all, the United States of America is the greatest country on the face of the planet. Country like the United States, when you have a tour with a person like Charlie Kirk going out and speaking his mind and talking with people, and the tragedy is still very raw. I think it is for all of us. This is still, I traded text messages with Charlie. I was excited because he was coming to Utah twice. That morning I was going to go out with ice. I did go out with ice. I invited him to come with us. I said, Charlie, come with us. It's always fun. And he's like, I don't know if I can do both. And
Charlie would never turn down a trip to ice. He squeeze it in.
He would, yeah. And, but I also had a daughter who had recently graduated from there. She's newly married. Her and her husband were there. I was there. My wife was parking the car and coming in. And then that shot was fired. And I was watching Charlie. I saw it. I saw him fall back into his life. And it was scary because you didn't know if there was going to be more shots fired. You see some of these shootings and you didn't know if that was the end. So my family, there were 4 of us there. But there were 3,000 people there that lived through that terror and that trauma. And that should never happen here. We have a lot of us, not all of us, but we have a lot of us that are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
All of us are members. All of us are members of the church. I call us Mormons. They're my people. I do. We're all members of the church.
But we had an unimaginable scene just on Sunday in Michigan. I guess what I learned from this, though, is the heroism and the resiliency and we're going to talk more about this. But this, to me, this guy right here, he was standing 10 feet from Charlie when it happened. You have Michaela and others who lived and worked with Charlie for a decade. I knew Charlie. I was friends with Charlie. I'd seen him on the set of Fox and Friends because he was guest hosting. But you were right there. And to the greater turning point audience and family, led now by Erica, what a strength, what a pillar. And I'm glad you're here with us tonight.
Thank you. The amount of work that went in from the state, your guys' team was incredibly on top of that. I think the Health and Human Services Secretary had contacted me directly and was in the midst of all of that. What was kind of going through your head at the moment that this happened, and how? I guess I can kick this off because I think what we're going to do is we're going to go through some questions. Now we're going to open up the discussion if that's okay with everybody, and then we're going to take some questions from students at the end of this. But how has that changed you politically? Where are you at since that? Bring us back to like the moment that where you are, and where are you at? Where's your head at today?
Yeah, so I had several speaking. I'm gonna do the Charlie Kirk thing and say, guys, let's facilitate a conversation here. I promise that we'll get to the end of it and we'll ask questions. That's it. By the way, this is the most turning point thing ever to have Fox News, Governor Cox, and Andy Biggs, the former Freedom Caucus chair, all together on the stage. That's the most turning point thing ever. So, I appreciate that. Welcome to my alma mater. It's incredible to be back at Utah State University. We're so proud that Turning Point picked Utah State University. And look at the now, the largest crowd ever. These are my Aggies, and Aggies are special. So that day I had several speaking engagements, and I was back at the Capitol when my assistant came in, and she pulled me out and she said, we need you immediately. That's never a good sign when you're the governor. And I walked out, and there was a captain there, Highway Patrol, and he said, there's been a shooting at Utah Valley University, and Charlie Kirk has been shot. And even as the words are coming in, I'm having a hard time processing them. I said, that can't be. And I said, are you sure? Because sometimes when these things happen, there's a fog of war and you get bad information, right? And so somebody handed me their phone and the video was already there. And I wish I hadn't seen that video. I can't unsee it. I know that's true for so many of you, especially those of you who were there. And immediately, 30 seconds later, there was a call from the White House. And it was from the Situation Room. It was Marco Rubio. He was there. The Secretary of State was there for something else. I've known Marco for years. We're friends. And he said, hey, what is happening? And I said, Marco, nobody can tell us exactly what's happening. So then it's just, it's go mode. You get everybody together. And we're just trying to figure out which hospital was he at? What's the latest? And we were in constant communication. I spoke to the president, to President Trump less than an hour later, and we kept getting the information back, and it was looking worse and worse and worse. My first thought was just, please don't die. Like, please, just we got to keep him alive. And then I knew about Charlie's wife. We had 2 little kids, and that's the humanity of all of this, right? And I think it changed all of us. Because what I realized very quickly is this wasn't an attack on Charlie Kirk because of his political beliefs. We knew that. And it was a political assassination. People were afraid to say that. We should not be afraid to call things what they are. The second thing that mattered was we have to find the person responsible, and we have to hold them accountable, and we will do that. Because I know our law enforcement here in Utah, and they're the best in the world. There was no way that this person was going to get away with it, and they came through. The This was more than just an attack on Charlie Kirk. This was an attack on free speech. It was an attack on America. It was an attack on American ideals. It was treasonous. It was, we have not had a high-profile assassination like this in my lifetime. I'm 50 years old, so it's been 55 years since we've had anything like this. And the weight of that sitting on all of us. And the fourth thing I knew is that Utahns weren't going to riot. They weren't going to start cars on fire. They weren't going to...
I mean, when's the last time you saw a left-wing speaker have to cancel their event on campus? When was the last time? Our side did what? Turned to prayer. Everyone here, I think, that we saw across the state of Utah turned to prayer. We saw that immediately. I want to jump in on this. You had a close relationship with Charlie. What do you think the hardest battle is that you foresee in this new political environment?
The country appears to be so chasmically divided. That's really part of our problem. I mean, we tried to have a prayer on an oral prayer on the floor of the House, and the Democrats shouted us down. Can you imagine that? It was amazing. I view that as when we want to talk about moving things forward for what's best for the country. Kind of like the way Charlie did. He was always wanting to engage in debate because he believed our ideas were right. We're fighting people who want to crush ideas as opposed to engage and be willing to admit that someone else just might have a better idea. And that's the problem. And I would just say this about a lot of people wait until they're called to do something before they stand up to defend something. But Charlie didn't. Charlie and Tyler and TPUSA and all of you who are here, what you guys have done is you've seen the need to do something, and you've engaged, and you've put some oomph behind it. You've done it with honesty, integrity, clarity, purpose, and principle. That's what Charlie did. And that if we're going to go forward as a nation, we need to emulate what Charlie did.
I haven't really shared this story, but I'd like to really quick because it is not about me, okay? But every once in a while, and this is not a regular occurrence, but I had the opportunity to interact with President Trump. And that night of the shooting, at like 11:30 p.m., the president called me. And now normally when President Trump calls you, and again, it doesn't happen very often, he'll say, "Hello, Jason, this is your favorite president, Donald Trump." When he wasn't president, he'd say,
that has enabled some people that are mentally ill. What's the viewpoint on that? I don't know who wants to take that first.
So, if you have constantly a group of people that demonize and dehumanize and use the worst possible rhetoric, you're going to actually trigger some people to actually engage with dangerous and violent acts. And so that's what we've seen. And when you take a leader like Donald Trump, who is the leader, I assume everybody in here would acknowledge he's a great president and he's a great leader. And let's think what he's done. Let's see, multiple impeachments, investigations. The FBI went after him before he was actually sworn in, and they came up with a Russian host. And the FBI did that with Clapper and Brennan. And when you see this kind of demonization now, first of all, you kill trust in your government. And if you can't trust your government, all of a sudden, trust in your fellow man is a little bit weaker. And the rhetoric continues to go strong. I get back to what I was saying about Congress. And some of this stuff we've heard from various members of Congress after Charlie's death has been to continue to perpetuate the very language that that actually causes and inspires those who are not the same and who are evil to actually come after people. And you throw gas on the fire. Instead of, and that's exactly the opposite of what Charlie was doing. So I would just say, for instance, if you have rhetoric that demonizes the LDS Church, which you remember, you've encountered that.
Yeah, we had some of that this week.
We saw some of it this week. And it takes...
Really, this whole month. I mean, this has been a rough month for
That's right.
a lot of members of the church. Between the death of President Nelson, we have the Michigan issue, and then obviously Charlie's assassination.
All of this, this attack on us, it's going to trigger somebody like who may not have been rational, who decided he hated Mormons, and we were somehow demonic. And there are people who think we are demonic. That kind of rhetoric has got to end. And it's largely, as Alex said, it's coming from one side. And we have got to make sure that as we fight the fight, that we call that out and say, no more.
Well, that, that there's been some inflammatory rhetoric on both sides, and that you coined the "disagree better" slogan. Is that really a both sides issue, or what's your opinion?
No, so I want to add to what Andy said here, because I think that's really important. One of the TPUSA staff perspectives said this isn't just about left and right. It's about good and evil, right, up and down. And that piece really matters to me. And I think that's as Andy said, when you call people fascists and Nazis, well, we went and liberated Europe from fascists and Nazis. That is an evil. And when you try to convince people that people who aren't fascists and Nazis are, that's
normal people.
Yeah.
Regular people that participate in civic process.
That's exactly right. When we get accused of that, here's two of the most dangerous trends that we've seen over the past few years. This idea that speech is violence is so wrong. And even worse than that, but it goes a step worse than that, because then they think, well, then violence is speech. And when you see everything through a lens of oppressor and oppressed, which again is so dangerous, because it allows you to justify things that you would never otherwise do. And you think that then, because someone said something that you don't like, that's violence towards me, which then justifies me being violent towards this person for speaking. And that's exactly what happened in this case. And that is a destructive mind virus in our society today.
Sports back in 2022. And even going so far as to say that you should be expelled from the Republican Party. Since Charlie's assassination at Utah Valley, you seem to change your tune about Charlie. How has Charlie Kirk's death personally impacted you?
Thank you. So, you know what? I don't know that my tune about Charlie has changed. I've learned a lot from Charlie over the years. That might surprise you. I would hope that Charlie's tune, if I had an opportunity to talk to him today, might have changed a little bit about me. We had an opportunity to share. You brought up one very important one, and I want to address it, because I know how passionate Charlie was about this, and I know what a difficult decision that was for me at the time. So this was about men and women's sports, right? And I just want to be very clear. I never advocated for that. I never wanted that at all. What had happened was there was a lawsuit in Idaho where they had passed the first ban, and there was a judge had ruled